Alright guys, so in this video, this is the lecture 3 of GRPC video series. In the first video, we discussed about the theoretical concepts of GRPC and protocol buffers and the internal working of HTTP, JSON, and then the data encoding part and the serialization, deserialization, and the comparison between the REST and GRPC. And then in the second video, we have gone through the performance comparison of GRPC versus the REST, and we created multiple services and we performed the inter-services communication, and we used the Apache Beam in order to get the insights of the performance among the order service, invoice service, REST based and the GRPC based. And in this video we will be implementing the GRPC based Spring Boot application. So if you remember, in the last video we created an application which was REST based, and then there was another application which was GRPC based. However, we did not deep dive into the implementation of GRPC in Spring Boot. All those services were based on Java Spring Boot. So in this video, majorly we will be implementing the service unary call communication in using Spring Boot GRPC. Alright, so let's begin. So what I'll do, I'll quickly go to start spring.io. Alright, and then I will use 3.2.5 Java, and I'll say order GRPC. However, nobody will use the name GRPC, but in this video I'm using just to indicate you that this is the order GRPC service. Alright, and I'll use the GRPC. Okay, I'll remove this and I'll use actuator. However, we don't need that, but that's okay. I'll use Lombok, and then in order to make the connection, so this service, the way we will create this service is this service will go to the Postgres. It will be order service. So I've already created an order table into the Postgres database in my local, and I have inserted some of the dummy data in it. So this service will basically go into database and will try to get some request out of it. However, that call that you will make to order service will not be a REST based call, it will be a GRPC based call. So we will be calling a get order service. Okay, so in order to make the connection, I'll use a Postgres. If you see, we don't have any GRPC related dependency here, so we will have to add those manually. Okay, so let's move on, and then what else? I think enough, and then I'll say generate. Oh, 1 second, actually let's add some more. We will need JPA, right, in order to make use the ORM with the Postgres, and then let's for now also add web, and then I'll generate. I'll go here, let me take a pause and import it to my IntelliJ. I'll come back. Alright guys, so my most of the dependencies, indexes and everything is done. Alright, so now let me show you my database. So if you go to my database, I've created this order table. So this order table is inside retail solution, and then this has few columns like order ID, and then it has a column like invoice ID, customer ID, and the order time. Alright, so now, and if you see here, I have already inserted few kind of a dummy data in it. Okay, so now what we will do is we will add on first the GRPC related dependencies into my build.gradle, and I will try adding the protobufs and everything for these database. Okay, so we will have to first add this library, this plugin. Alright, so I'll copy this plugin and we will have to add it here. We will have to add it here. Okay. Now I will also we have our Spring Boot actuator, we have JPA, and then we will have to add GRPC Spring Boot starter. So I'll see, let me see if we have GRPC Spring Boot starter. GRPC Spring Boot starter. Alright, So this guy has created Spring Boot GRPC starter. Actually go to GitHub library and yeah, copy this. Okay. Alright, and then so if I run this for now, I'll go to test and disable the test. I don't want these. Okay, and then in my build.gradle I will have to add some plugins. In my dependencies, the test, I will add some dependencies like, let's say, I've already copied these plugin functions. Probably I'll give you the GitHub URL. You can also just do a direct copy. You don't have to manually write it, right? Nobody can. It's not easy. com.invoice, and then I'll say com.order, and then I'll make the URL com. Inside com, you will need to go inside GRPC, and then I'll say Protos. Okay. Alright, so now this is it. And then I already have other dependencies. What I'll do, I'll try to, and I'll convert this to, I personally prefer application.yml, so I'll say yml. Okay, I'll go to GRPC, and then I will try to I'll go to build.gradle. Since we have added, I'll remove this, comment this, because we have already this starter. So I will, yeah. Alright, so I'll update this, and then once it was, yeah. Okay, let it get finished. Alright, so it's downloading dependencies. Let's wait for some time to get this ready. So this is there, we have the native shredded. This is basically for GRPC, specific to GRPC, right? The container for GRPC. And then we have received the stub GRPC Protobuf. All these libraries we have now in our class path. Let the indexing get finished, and then I'll quickly start this. Alright guys, so indexing has been finished, so let me start this, right, and then we will see. It might fail because we have the Postgres driver, but we are not connected with the database yet. So what I'll do, I'll go to I'll edit this and then I'll say as Spring application name, right, and then I'll say profiles ActiveScript to local. Alright, so and then I will here create one application local.yml, and then here I'll quickly create the data source, right, and so I'll give all my local database connections. So I'll say JDBC, and then / PostgreSQL, and then I'll have to add it with my local host 5432. Alright, and then I will have to add, because in which database I am. So this table, if you look at this table, this is inside invoice records. So I'll use invoice records. Okay, now the username is Postgres and my password is Postgres. Okay, so these are very basic JDBC credentials I'm passing, and then I'll run this again. So So because of the fact we have the plugins and all, you see it's running all those tasks, extract proto. However, we don't have proto as of now, but it's trying to run it. So you see, so my service is up and running, right? So it's not up as part of the Spring Web, right? You see it's using netty. So if you see detected GRPC netty shaded, right? And then detected GRPC netty shaded, etc. I registered GRPC services and GRPC server started listening at port number 9090. All right, so this is listening at 90. So if I do, for example, I'll go to GRPC. Okay, I don't have any info, so I can't call it, so let's not call it. So I will stop this and then I'll go back. Okay, so just what I have used, the Spring Boot starter. Another way that you don't use Spring Boot starter and you use the dependencies directly. For example, IO dot and then whatever the Google dependencies are for Protobuf, right? And for your stub, whatever GRPC dependencies, you use plain dependencies here. I'm using Spring Boot starter directly. Okay. So now let's create protos. Okay, so protos is same like our DTO objects. In the rest we create DTO objects, right, to send the data back. For example, from your database, if you are extracting 10 fields from your database, however you only want to send 5 fields to your Android client, then you only use the 5 fields in your DTO object and transfer it to your consumer, whoever calling it. So in this case we have protos. So I'll create protos. I'll say protos. And the reason behind I'm using this protos, because if you go to your build.gradle and if you look at this, so the source of protos I have given here, com.order.grpc.protos. So that is why I have protos here. Alright, so now I will have to create one proto. I'll create only one single proto. I'll not. So what I'll do, I'll say not class, sorry. I'll go to file and then I will create order dot proto, actually, right, dot proto. Okay, I'll say do refactor. Okay, now it's my proto file. So you need to pass the syntax first. So the syntax will pass proto 3. Okay, oh sorry, proto 3. All right, now here you need to pass the Java package, because when the build will happen, inside which directory all these protos objects will get created, all the implementation will get created. So I'll say whenever you build, you copy everything inside com dot your order dot grpc dot, I'll say DTOs. Okay, this is what I'll say message, and I'll say order, and then here in this order I will simply say I want to have string. In the database I have order ID, invoice ID, customer ID and order time. So I'll say these are scalar types, right? String order ID, right? You see in Java how do we use it? We use a string, right? So those are data types specific to Java. So the data types specific to GRPC we call them scalar types. Okay. So I'll say GRPC string and then we have again a string and then we have invoice ID here. I'll say string and then we have customer ID here. Alright, I'll say created time. Let's say this. Okay. Now important thing, this is not your JSON object, this is proto. So you need to assign the number. So I'll say assign number 2. Right? Okay, you can assign any number, right? You can assign any number, but for simplicity we will keep 1 2 3 4 sequential numbers, so it's easy for GRPC as well to understand these numbers, and using number 1 2 3 4 will take less memory. All right, so this is my order proto. So what I'll do, I will now create a response object, right? The response we will send. So I'll say order response dot proto. Okay, so this is simple file. I'll copy all these things and then I'll say message order response, and I'll say repeated. What do you want to repeat? Repeat the order, right? So I'll say order, then order. Okay, now here I have to repeat the order. So inside order I have capital name. So let's use the same case character. So right, I'll use the same case character. So I'll say order, and then I'll say order. Alright, so now I'll go to order. Now this order is not resolved, so I will have to import this. How will I import this? I'll say import, and what do I have to import? Order dot proto. Alright, okay. It says not add import path to again. Okay. Alright, so I'll assign this to number 1. Okay, so now I have my order response here. Okay, and I will create an order object as well. So I'll say order proto, the request, I'll say order. So you can pass me the n number of IDs. Alright, now I will simply say, I'll copy all these things, use the same order request, pass this, and then I'll say message order request. Alright, now I'll say repeat it. What do I want? I want IDs. Alright, so I'll say order IDs. So we will be creating a service where you can pass the order IDs, and then by passing the order IDs I'll get you the order details from database. Alright, so this is now my the request proto. Okay, so now let's create a service to, so this service will be called, right, by the consumer, by the client RPC, the stub basically, in order to get the details. So we will have to create a service. Alright, so I always forgot. Okay, so I'll say order service dot proto. Alright, okay. So now I have my order service. Now how can I order? I can write my order service. The same things. So I will have to first copy the same things. I'll copy these things. Same thing. I'll say I will have to use service. All right. I'll say order service, and then here I have to define that it's an RPC, and I'll say get orders. Okay, and what this get orders will consume, it will consume an order request. So I'll have to pass the order request, and what will it returns? It returns the order response. Alright, but I have to import these order request and response because this guy doesn't understand these things. So I'll say order request dot proto, and then I'll say import order response.proto. Okay, so all these things are imported now, and then I'll cover this. Alright, still error, cannot resolve the symbol. It has resolved this. Alright, this is correct, right? Okay, got it. I'll go back to order service now. Okay, resolved now. Alright, so now everything looks good. Okay, now I want to run this. So in the build path, all the implementations of these services and other Protos object will get created inside my build folder, inside generated, inside source. Okay, so that's one thing. So I will quickly run this. Okay, now okay, there is some annotation issue. I think I need to add the Apache dependency for annotations, right? So I'll go here and then I'll remove this. I'll add implementation. I'll say org Apache, and then I have .tomcat. Okay, and then here I have annotations. Not getting any recommendation. Okay, annotations, and then this is API. Okay, and I'll say the one I was using was 6.553. Alright, I'll try to import this. This get imports. Alright, now what I'll do is, actually let's only use it compile only. Okay, alright, so now we have everything in place. Once this get results, I'll run this again, and meanwhile what I could do is I'll create a JPA, an entity for our database. I'll say entities. Okay, and I'll say order. Alright, so I'll go to I'll quickly add this. I'll say, and this is my entity, and then this is my data, and then I'll say quickly table. Okay, and then my table, the name of my table is orders. Alright, and then this is my schema. What is my schema? Invoices record. Alright, now here I will quickly add order ID, which is my primary key. Yeah, okay, now I'll add my column, and the column name would be my order ID. Okay, and then here I'll say this is my ID. Alright, and then my generated value, anyways I don't want to generate any value for now. Let's use this UID. Alright, and then the other column I have private string invoice ID. Alright, then the column is invoice ID. Alright, and then I'll say private string my string order ID. I'll say quickly column name. I'll say order ID. Alright guys, so okay, what is order ID, invoice ID? This is customer ID actually. Customer ID. Customer ID. Okay, and then this is, let's say, local date time, created time. Okay, and this I will say, and what is the column name for my created time is the order time. All right, I'll go back and I will quickly say order time. Okay, all right, so now what I'll do is I'll quickly create a JPA. So I'll create a package here. Okay, and then I will say I'll create an interface and I'll say order repo. Okay, so this is my interface for order repo. So what I'll do is I'll simply extend my JPA repository. Alright, so this is my order and this is my string, my key. Alright, I'll say order. Okay, alright, so now I will run this application again. Okay, let me see what is the issue. Okay, let me try to fix this issue and come back. Alright guys, so there was some issue of related to the dependency. I fixed it. Now my application is up. Alright, so now what I'll do, I'll go to build directory, because if you see initially it already performed all these tasks, extract photo, generate photo, etc. And then I'll go to generated, I'll go to source, and I'll go to GRPC. So see, it has created an implementation of order service GRPC, right? Now we'll have to use one of the method of this class, and then if you go inside Java, you will see this is the same package name we passed, right, in the proto. You see this. So inside com.order or GRPC DTOs, it has created all these objects. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll go back and then try writing an implementation of order service. So I'll simply go here and then I'll create a service package and I'll say order, oh not this, I'll say order service. Alright, I'll close this and then alright, give me 1 second guys, I'll be back. Alright, so there is one thing odd I see. I can quickly, so what I'll do is in the order service, I'll not use the DTO. Let's put it inside service, not DTOs. Alright, and then I'll go here and then go to task, go to build, and then I'll clean this. So my build directory will go away, right? It will get cleaned. Okay, I will build again. I'll say GRPC service. One second. Okay, so now I'll go here to generated source Java DTOs and then services GRPC order services. Okay, all right, so now what I'll do, I'll go to my order service, I'll go to my order service and okay, so now what I'll do is I'll extend my order service GRPC and then simply paste. Okay, now I will have to override the method. I'll go to generate, I'll have to override, and then I'll override this method, right? In my previous video I explained you. Okay, right? So if you go inside this class, there is get order that we will have to override. Alright, because it's abstract class, so we can override the behavior of this method. So I'll remove this and then I'll go to here and I'll say required hours constructor. Now I will inject private final. I'll use my private final and then my repository. What is the name of my repository? It's the order repository, right? So I'll say order repository. Alright, and it takes an order request. Okay, so now what I'll do, I will go back. So I'll say request dot add and then if I want to say request dot get order IDs, right? This IDs list, IDs count, and then list. Okay, this is my list. So what I'll do is right request dot outer class. This is my outer request. Okay, now what I'll do is, now I need to have the request, so I'll say list of strings order IDs, and then I'll say request dot get order list, and then I will now have to call this order repository. So I'll say order repo dot find all by ID, and I'll say order IDs. Okay, now this will return me the list of entities, which is order, and then I'll say my orders. Okay. Alright, now I will have to convert my orders into my this order response, right? Then only I'll be able to send this. So I'll say private order response, prepare order response. Okay, so now here I will pass the list of order. I'll say orders. Okay, so for my list of orders, and then for its stream, I will have to map every order object to a to different order proto objects, right? So what I'll do, I will have to create another method here, and I'll say private order. Alright, so I'll say get order, and then here order. Okay, now here I'll say order 1 is equal to order. Okay, now I actually have to use this order. I'll say order dot this order. Okay, but I don't think I can create this directly. I'll have to create the builder. So I'll say new builder. Okay, so this will be dot builder. Alright, now to this order 1 object, what I will do is order 1 dot set order ID. How can I get the order ID? I'll say order ID dot get order ID. Now I'll say order 1 dot set customer ID. How can I get the customer ID? Order dot get customer ID. I'll say order 1 dot set invoice ID, and then I'll say order dot this, because this right hand side object is my entity object, and this is left hand side is my protobuf object, right? So I'll say order 1 dot set created time string dot value of order dot created time. Okay, now I will simply return what I'll run order 1 dot I will say build. Alright, and then for each order I will simply call this method get order, and I'll pass this, and then I'll say collect. Alright, so now this will return me order of this object. Orders response list. Alright, and then I will return here, I will say I will have to create an order response. So I'll say order response is equal to order response dot, I'll say new builder dot build, right? I'll have to say add all order. So in the all order I'll say orders, I will have to say orders response lists. Alright, and then here I will simply return order response. Okay, now here I have this, and then I'll simply return prepare order, right? Orders, ideally it should name as orders. All right, so this is basic implementation of my service. So no, we don't have to return order. Actually we will have to add it inside to my response observer dot, yes, so I'll say prepare orders, and I have to finish this order dot on completed. Okay, so now this is the way. So this is not the traditional way of sending response back, returning the list or the order response and all those things. Rather, we are preparing an order response, right? And this order response is the order response of Protobuf, the object, right? And then we basically called by passing the order IDs from my request. I'm passing all those order IDs into my database repository and trying to get all the data, and the data that came out was in the form of entities, and I converted all the entities in the object of Protobuf, and then I sent it as part of the response observer object. So my by this time the implementation of service is completed. All right, so now what I'll do, I'll try to run this service and try to pass some data, and then we will try to run the service from the postman and playing around all the request and response. Okay, so now this is ready. What I'll do, I'll go to my, I'll say GRPC. If you see, it started on port number 9090. All right, so I will have to pass GRPC localhost 90. I don't have to pass HTTP, right? I have to pass GRPC. So I'll say I don't have any definition. So what you need to tell postman that this is the service definition I want to call as part of my GRPC, right? So from postman, what you could do, you can change, and then I will import. So I'll do import from local system or path where it's located, enter path this and this. Okay, so I'll choose file, and then I'll go to my directory, and I'll go to, where is this folder, content, and then this is my order service. No, it's actually inside my order GRPC build, and it's inside, where is it inside? It's actually inside just this, and then protos, and I will say this service. I'll say allow. Okay, I'll say all okay. Okay, I don't know what is wrong. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'll import it as API. Alright, so seems like this tool, this Postman is kind of my API limit exam. So I have another tool as well. In order to call GRPC, we will simply use that tool. Where is that? Give me 1 second, I'll be back. Alright guys, so I have this project, this Crea tool as well. You can use this to, because in my Postman I'm logged into my Postman account, so they are tracking, they're saying it's almost done. So I'll say order GRPC service. Alright, and I'll say order GRPC, and then I'll create a project here. I'll say this is my database. So I'll have to add the proto file. So I'll add the proto files GRPC, and then from source this com order GRPC protos, and then I'll add all the files. Okay, so now I have added all the files. I'll say my endpoint is localhost 9090. Okay, and I'll disable. Okay, this is enabled, that's okay. Okay, I'll go to order service and I'll click on order. Okay, so now I need to pass the order ID. I'll get some order IDs 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'll pass any, right? 10 11 12. So I'll say 11 So when you import it, right, your proto file set, this your client automatically configures all the request body and etc. Right, according to your and also detected that okay, get orders is my order service. So this is not the traditional REST. I'll say 13. I'll say send. It's not the valid URL. Okay. Okay, how can I update this? Say, if I say HTTP, how do they respond? Because Postman doesn't take HTTP, right? So it's for gRPC. If I use HTTP, so let's see. Wow. All right, so it shows error. Okay. Okay, now there is an error, right? Select star, it's a database error. From noiside is this. Relation invoices record dot orders doesn't exist. Okay. Invoice records, it's not invoices records. Invoices records. Where I'm using invoices records. In my entity. Oh, okay. Invoices records. Okay. I'll start this and then let me start this again. Alright, so it started. I'll go back to Kriya and I'll hit the request again. Again problem. Orders, name orders, and what is the table name? Schema name is retail solution. Database name is invoice record. Retail solutions. See, this the database, and inside database I have retail solution. This is schema, so I'll say silly mistake something. Okay, I'll run this again. Alright, so my service is up now. I'll go back to Kriya and then I'll send. Okay, but I don't see any response here. Response, yeah, see. So this is my response, right? So in get order, I'm passing 11, 12, 13, 14. So let's say if I pass 15 and if I say 50 and if I pass 45 and if I pass 40, so I'll say okay. So now see, so this is how it is working. So it's a gRPC call. It's not the Postman basic. So it's not the REST API, right? You see, I'm calling. So this is this Kriya client is acting as my stub, and then this I'm calling my server. Inside server, the service I'm calling is my get order service, right? So there is no concept of controller, etc., etc. So this is all the gRPC implementation. If you are not clear with the terminologies and things that I have used in this video, you can go back and check out my lecture 1 and lecture 2 that I have created on my gRPC series. In those, I have deeply covered all the fundamentals and all those things. However, we have not gone very deep into the types of gRPC, which you can Google around and understand the bidirectional and server streaming, client streaming, right? But in this, as part of this video, we have only implemented the unary type, right? So it's working as a client server application, right? So it's based on gRPC, it's based on HTTP2, right? And protocol buffers, right? You see all the order it has got 15, 20, 45, 50. All right. So if you have any doubt or anything, I'll share my GitHub URL for this repository along with this video. If in case you have any questions or anything, if you want me to create a video on a certain topic, probably you can comment it out and reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's already there in my YouTube description. All right. Thank you so much, guys.